Welcome to a new reality where we are doing on Zoom. My name is Reed Becker, and I'm here with the two Jakes, Jake Cohen on your bottom screen and Jake Hyman to your left on the top. And today we're going to be, first of all, thanks guys for joining us today.
Anytime.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. We're going to be debating today while the real world today is in a whole crazy world right now. Focusing on the sports world of it, we'll give you some entertainment with a debate of which NBA team would have had the best chance to win the championship this season had the NBA season continued. I'm going to start off with my side. My team would have been the LA Clippers to win this whole thing this year. The LA Clippers have the best depth in this league based on first of all, you have Kawhi, Paul George, and then that's just your first two. Kawhi, obviously we all know, the two-time finals MVP, and then Paul George, who came along this offseason. And Marcus Morris is first off with the depth. He came off from the Knicks this past season. That just added extra shooting for the Clippers to help on their bench. And you have just other guys that can help out. Lou Williams, we all know, the former sixth man of the year. You add that coming off the bench with Kawhi, Paul George. And you had Lou Williams, who was shooting 36% from the three-point range this past season and has 30 points in 100 possessions per possession. We know that obviously people will mention that earlier in the season, the Clippers were struggling a whole lot early on. But to be fair on that, the Clippers started off the season without Paul George for a lot of that first month of the season. And it took them a full while to even get Kawhi and Paul George to play together. So that's part of the reason why they were actually struggling early on. When you don't have your two best players on your team, that can result in some losing. But when we finally came back with Kawhi and Paul George, when they came back, we had this record of 0-3, just to break it down with the records, 0-3 without the two of them playing together when they were not playing together, and then 6-7 without Kawhi, and which is a losing record, and 14-8 without PG. So just that gives you a perspective of the losing without them together. Jake Cohen, we'll go to you.
My first, I thought the Bucks out east were gonna end up winning if the NBA didn't stop. The best thing is they're the best record in the NBA at 53-12. That includes 35 double-digit wins, with a record of 10-5 versus playoff teams in the West and 12-5 versus playoff teams in the East. Point differential 11.2. I mean, they're smoking everyone. They have 2 wins against the Clippers. One of those was at full strength for the Clippers. They also beat full-strength Lakers in late December. They're the best defensive team with a 101.8 defensive rating, and they're the fastest-paced team with a 105.1 points per game pace. Second most efficient, and the most key thing for me, which I think they were going to win it all, they had not one player rank in the top 50 in minutes per game. What's that mean? We got fresh legs. Guys are staying loose. They're ready to go. They're preventing injury risks down the stretch. For example, Clay played 36 minutes a game last year in the playoffs, which could have been a factor for a torn ACL. I mean, heavy strengths, especially when they were down to Toronto. On top of that, they got reigning MVP Giannis putting up better numbers than last year on more efficient stats and less time played. He's got 29.6 points a game, 14 rebounds, 5.8 assists, a steal, and a block. I just don't know who's going to guard him. And to complement him, Middleton on a 50-40-90 slash with 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, I think that duo right there is tough to stop.
Well, what happened last year when Giannis, choked in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals?
He did not perform last year, but I think he'll remember that. I mean, he's a top player in our NBA today, if not the best. I mean, he's going to be ready to go come playoff time if we had a playoffs. I think he would remember a Game 7 performance like that for any playoffs. On top of that, I mean, Coach Budenholzer, was reported by New York Times that he was actually studying Nets and Magic film already within the first week since we've been in self-isolation, which shows the commitment he's putting to the team to be able to get to that next step and win a championship.
All right, Hyman, next to you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to stay out west with Reed, and I went with the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not trying to be biased, even though I am a big Laker fan, but I really went with the Lakers because, you have LeBron and Davis. I mean, Cohen wants to talk about the duos. I can go with the duos too. I got LeBron and Davis, two All-Stars. LeBron at the age of 34 is putting up numbers that are unheard of, 25.7 points a game with a career high in assists with 10.6 assists and 7.9 rebounds. You also have Davis, who's averaging 26.7 points a game with 9.4 rebounds, just peaking in his prime. I mean, he's entering technically the prime area. But then people do say the Lakers have a low depth, but I disagree with them. I mean, the Lakers are probably the most experienced team when it comes to the depth with the players.
And the Clippers depth? I mean, the Lakers.
Oh, no, I understand. The Clippers.
The Lakers lost out on like every single player because they were waiting for Kawhi, who basically played them the entire process.
But the big trade was Davis, and then we also added Danny Green, who is a two-time NBA champ and a 3-and-D player, with also Avery Bradley, who is an extremely good defensive player. Davis is also in the run for Defensive Player of the Year, averaging 2.4 blocks a game. So that's why I went with the Lakers, because I feel like they're the most experienced team. They have the most experience. The players on their team are most experienced in the playoff. We have Rajon Rondo, a veteran point guard from the Boston Celtics, who is a champion. We also have, like I said, Danny Green and Avery Bradley, and Dwight Howard has some playoff experience.
Just to give a little nugget, though, the Clippers this season, before it got suspended, Clippers were 2-1 versus the purple and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And Milwaukee was actually 1-0.
Well, the way I look at it is, if you look at the second half of the season, which is really going for that playoff run, the Bucks held a 12-5 record, while the Lakers had the best record in the league at that time, which was 13-5.
But they couldn't beat the Clippers consistently, could they?
Well, I mean, the Lakers are first in the West right now, and I think that they can beat the Clippers because they have more experience. I'm going by experience.
But as we've seen with the Warriors the past couple seasons, the depth will always beat out the duos. Depth comes playoff time.
Okay, but have you ever thought about playoff? I mean, it's playoff LeBron, and plus the Lakers missed the playoffs last year, so LeBron has some fresh legs for the playoffs, and he can hold a team, and you've seen what he can do with that Cavalier team.
Yeah,
but on top of that,
the Eastern Conference was as weak as a rec team.
But on top of that, Jake, say he has fresh legs. I mean, there was lingering injuries all of last year. I mean, say he's going to 2 straight Game 7s, and then he's in the Western Conference Final. Do you think those legs are still fresh? I mean, and on top of that, Davis has little to no playoff experience.
I think it has to do with his mentality, too. I think it's not just the physical way of him playing. I think it also has to do with all the emotion that has been going on in the NBA so far with, for example, like the Kobe Bryant death. I feel like he has a statement that he wants to make with this Los Angeles team, and I think that can help push that team.
Do you think that could have a negative impact? For example, say Kobe's death could have a negative mental strain on him.
It could, but also it could be both ways. It could be like, all right, I'm gonna win for him, or I'm gonna like not play as well because I'm thinking of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Too much of it.
What about you're saying LeBron's gonna go off just like he did with Cleveland, but
I think he is because
we disagree with the death part of it though. But the Lakers plus 8.4 with LeBron on the floor this season, but once he gets off the floor, they are a negative 0.01. So once they get up, you're confident that he's going to be able to play at the most maximum minutes every single game this postseason to save this Lakers team.
Well, I also see like Kyle Kuzma could step up a little bit. He's averaging 12 points a game. I mean, it's not that outstanding, but it is a role player.
And but how many playoff appearances does Kyle Kuzma have under his belt?
He's not experienced. I'll give you that.
He hasn't played a single game in the playoffs. How do we know he's going to perform?
And he's been in trade rumors this whole season.
Well, I mean, you do get that a lot with LeBron, but he's also trying to create a team that can. I mean, they did very well after the Davis trade. After trading their whole team basically to New Orleans, they kind of regrouped and they got some solid players out of that. I believe they got some solid players. Dwight Howard, if we look at him, or JaVale McGee. I mean, JaVale McGee we re-signed, but JaVale McGee, he's been on the rise after being like shown as a clown for all those years in the NBA, and I think he helped in that Warriors reign when they won the championship before. And I think he can help. I think he can help the Lakers.
Now, you say you guys have veteran experience, Jake, but the guys such as Rondo and Bradley, they haven't really had true playoff finals caliber experience since that, 08 Celtics?
What about when Avery Bradley hit that game? What about the Avery Bradley hit that game-winning shot?
What year was that?
Game 7, I think it was like 2000. I want to say 17.
I mean, give him one.
Okay, he doesn't have much playoff experience, but you can look at Rondo. But that was Rondo, like he was young at that time, but he also had playoff experience with the Pelicans when they went to the playoffs too.
That's one guy. If you count Bradley, so the two guys.
Okay, Danny Green. Danny Green is a 2-time NBA champ.
Danny Green, I'm not disagreeing with. He has true playoff experience. He's been playing with San Antonio as well.
And
Bradley and Rondo haven't really had, I think, true playoff experience since that Celtics team. I mean, Rondo's bounced around the league after that. Bradley's been in and out of teams.
Here's the thing. If we look at LeBron's Cavs team that one year.
Which year?
The year when they had the 4 seed. Okay. I forgot. I don't know. I'm not sure what year that was.
Okay.
I want to say 2000. That's when they lost. They got swept.
Okay, yeah, that is just the year before he went to LA, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay. So that team, if you look at that team, before he came, how many players on that team had playoff experience? Not a lot.
Right.
Not a lot, right? So if you look at the Lakers and you give him playoff experience, it's only going to help him dominate more.
To be fair, again, that Eastern Conference team, that whole Eastern Conference was as weak as old man bones. So the whole West is a completely different animal. He's going to have to go up against right next door the Clippers, the 2-time Finals MVP, the Houston Rockets, even the Utah Jazz. So I mean, there's much tougher competition that he's never had to face in the playoffs.
So would you say that
at least to get to the finals before that?
Okay. So that also brings my next point, where it's like, for Cohen, how do you think that the Bucks will shape off against the Western Conference team? Because if we're saying the East is so bad, the Bucks should easily get through, but they couldn't last year.
They couldn't, but I mean, I think after a Game 7 loss last year, I think they're going to bounce back, and they added some veteran depth. I mean, they have Korver, George Hill, and Wesley Matthews, who have all, as of recent, competed in playoff experiences. Mm-hmm. I think the East Conference is significantly worse than the West. I think we could all agree upon that. Mm-hmm. And I think with a 12-5 record versus playoff teams in the East, with the only losses coming with 2 to the Sixers, which is a 2-2 split right now, 2 to the Celtics, which is technically their Achilles heel in the East. They're 1-2 versus them, and 1 loss to the Heat. They're going to destroy everyone else, which I think will keep them well rested coming to a finals against either one of your teams. Could be anyone else. But I think they're going to fare fine. I mean, they have a 10-5 record versus playoff teams in the West right now. The only team that they do not have a winning record against in the playoffs in the West right now is Denver, who they're 0-1 versus.
It's true. I mean, Philly to me is just. Was that at home or on the road? Do you remember?
What, the Philly split right now?
You said they were 2-2 against Philly.
They've split both ways too. They have 1 win home, 1 win away each.
Because I would say, I mean, obviously Philly can't win consistently on the road, so that's a joke to me. But I would say the best team that could probably contend with them in the East would be Boston.
Which is the team they have a losing record versus currently in the But I think Budenholzer is a strong enough coach he has playoff experience. He led that Atlanta Hawks team with Al Horford, Korver, who was an all-star that year, Jeff Teague. I mean, he brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think he would develop a significant game plan to be able to stop guys like Kemba, Jaylen Brown, a potential breakout from Tatum.
All right, that's fair.
So
What?
I want to go back to the point of just having some sort of veteran player on your team. I mean, we can look at the 2010-2011 Miami Heat, where other than Dwayne Wade and LeBron and Chris Bosh, LeBron was also faced with some players on the Heat like Mike Bibby, Udonis Haslem, Eddie House, like those, and Mario Chalmers. Those players were not. They were like kind of role players, and that's all you need for LeBron to succeed, and they won. So that's why I think that the Lakers have the best chance to win, because LeBron has the players that are going to help him, that are going to knock down their shots when they need to, and that's going to get them to the chip.
Jay, can I ask you something?
Yes.
So a lot of LeBron's playoff teams, his style of playing the playoffs, if he can't get a nice drive and score, I mean, he's looking to kick for shooters.
Kick out.
The Lakers are shooting 35% right now in the year from three, but the Bucks, defensively, the best defensive team in the league right now, they're shutting down opponents to under 30% right now from three. So how do you think LeBron would be able to play his true style of game in the playoffs versus a team like Milwaukee that would be able to shut down the three-point line and force him to kick and have those guys try to drive?
So let's say we kick out to Danny Green, who's not having as good of a year as he had with the Raptors in the playoffs last year or with San Antonio in the years before. But I think that he's more of a playoff-minded person than a regular season person. I mean, he was shooting 45% last year from three in the finals, which is very impressive. And I think that can help in the playoffs when LeBron gives him the ball. I think his playoff mindset will change right then and there. I mean, I can't compare it to the regular season, but that's what studies have shown, that he shoots better in the playoffs. So I think that he'll be a huge asset for the kickout.
And you don't think if he gets tired and constraints, he won't perform in a almost choke performance LeBron would do, such as he did in 2011 versus Dallas, where he put up a stat line of, I believe, 8 points on 3 of 12 shooting with, I think, 8 turnovers that game. And he averaged about 4 or 5 turnovers for the series. I mean,
that's why he has a Davis to help him out, basically. I mean,
but Davis has no playoff experience. Davis played again.
Well, he's played in
like
this
1 year.
But I'm saying, yeah, but if you look at Davis, I mean, he's leading the team in scoring and rebounds and blocks, and he's being like exposed to the defensive player of the year right now. But I also think that if LeBron does not have a good game, he'll give the ball to Davis. I mean, LeBron's averaging 10.6 assists, his career high.
And what happens when Davis goes off the court?
What happens when Davis is off the court?
Yeah, because
LeBron can facilitate to other players. Contavious Caldwell.
How's LeBron going to facilitate if, say, Milwaukee shuts down his facilitating option, which is usually a kick for a catch and shoot three?
Well, Kyle Kuzma has been seen to show up some games. He could put 20 on the board. He
could, but he also has 0 games in the playoffs, so I don't know how he'll fare. I mean, it's a whole new stage for him. Mm-hmm. It's like he's entering a whole new world. It's like us going to college for the first time. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a whole new experience.
I mean, that definitely takes a toll on the young players, but I feel like
you can't have a guy who you're going to lean on if LeBron and Davis have a bad game. You can't lean on an inexperienced 3-year player like Kyle Kuzma to come in and try to carry your team to a win versus a team like Milwaukee, who poses Bledsoe as their third option, who's a defensive first teamer. He's played in the playoffs and he's played in big games for multiple years now.
But can Bledsoe give you that 20 on the board?
I don't know about 20, but I think
let's say the Lakers shut down Giannis.
How are they going to shut down Giannis? What's the game plan to shut down Giannis?
Make him
I think LeBron can guard him.
Right, then who's going to guard Middleton?
Well, that would be another question. We would have
then Middleton's going to have a mismatch if you put LeBron on Giannis. I mean,
with Avery Bradley.
Middleton's a small forward. He's 6'8". Bradley's, I think, a mere 6'4".
I
I mean,
understand that, but the Lakers play pretty packed in on the interior, and I don't think Middleton's more of a shooting player.
yeah, right. So if you pack in more on the interior, that's going to lead a 40% 3-point shooter open on the outside.
If you think of a 6'8" player going up against a 6'4" player, you're usually going to back him down or go at him. That's my game plan. That's what I would do.
Middleton is an
I'm
all-star.
gonna rely on one of the top defenders in the league to take him.
I don't know if you heard, but when you said to stop Giannis, you just make him shoot from the outside because he's not historically for these past couple of seasons. He's been shown not to shoot well from the outside.
Yes, he may not be able to shoot well from the outside, but haven't teams already been trying to do that for the past 65 games they've played in the season? And he's still putting up 30 points a game, regardless. I mean,
a lot of his game has been, at least from we've seen from the playoffs, is just going right to the basket, going right by guys.
Which is quite unstoppable in my eyes. I mean, he's playing 3 less minutes and he's scoring 3 more points a game. I mean, he's just getting better and better by the day.
So how do you explain Game 7?
It's unexplainable. He hit the offseason hard this year. He's definitely making bigger strides. And like I said earlier, he's trained with Kobe. I mean, he has the Mamba mentality, or he's developing it still. He's going to be able to put that Game 7 right in his memory if he gets in another Game 7 like that, where he's going to be able to shine. Reed, I have a question for you. So the Clippers, outside of Ivica Zubac, who stands at 7 foot, your next tallest player happens to be Mfiondu Kabengele at 6'9", who's not really in the rotation at all. But then the next player being Marcus Morris at 6'8". How do you plan to stop a Milwaukee team that actually is quite taller, with Giannis playing the point guard at 6'11", Lopez is 7 foot, Middleton 6'8"? How do you plan to stop that if Harrell, for example, is your biggest true center at 6'7"?
Well, I think first of all, Harrell, let me just get this in, has been a big production for the Clippers as 31 points per 100 possessions. But I think you put Harrell out there, and then I would go with Patrick Beverley, first of all, as one of their best defenders on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go Lou Williams. I would go with Lou Williams, who's been historically experienced with the rotation with 6-man, because you're not going to go with that other guy, that other guy that's out of the rotation. So
both of those guys are 6'1". So say Milwaukee then runs a larger lineup where they play Giannis at the point guard, where he's 6'11". You could play DiVincenzo at the 2 at 6'4", Middleton at the 3 at 6'8". Is Beverly going to be able to contain Giannis in that scenario if he's running the point?
He contained LeBron on Christmas, so I don't really have any doubt about that.
And then how about if we run Middleton at the 2? Do you think Lou Williams could contain him at a 7-inch difference?
Well, quite honestly, I think if you're talking about Giannis specifically, I would have the most confidence with Beverly on him.
You want to put Kawhi on him?
You could do that, I guess, too. I just think that Beverly is just their best defensive option. I mean,
How is Paul George? So I know if we want to talk about duos, right? And I think of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, their chemistry not very good. They both want to create shots for each other, with Paul George averaging a career high of 4.1 assists per game. I believe that that's another reason why I think that LeBron is more facilitator than Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, and he can pass the ball to Davis.
We may be talking better facilitators, but I'm talking about winning the NBA Finals here. I mean, you could pass the people.
Yeah, but it comes down. It really comes down to the best chemistry right there, and if they're not going to be on the same page, I don't think they have a chance.
Well,
But if we're gonna talk best chemistry, should we not be talking about Milwaukee, who brought back every single guy from last year with an improvement in DiVincenzo, and the only addition really being Kyle Korver? I mean, that's as best as you can get chemistry wise. They returned a whole team.
just when they actually were able to play together, their record actually went up to a much higher winning record consistently. So to say that they don't have that much chemistry with them, I mean,
Well, I'm just talking about assist. I'm talking about. I'm going on the assist numbers. That's how I'm thinking about it. Because if you look on the
but I'm
court,
looking at the results.
but it doesn't come down to playoff time though. Because let's say you take them out. What happens now?
You take who out?
Like if both of the players are off the court, who is controlling that Clipper team?
Well, I don't think you would take both of them out, honestly. I
know that Kawhi, right? Kawhi is more of a. How would you describe Kawhi? Actually, that's a because I'm not really sure.
How would I describe him? He's a 2-time Finals MVP.
I understand. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
he's a scoring machine.
Scoring machine. Okay.
He takes over games like we saw last year with Toronto.
Mm-hmm. But so what's gonna happen with him and Paul George? Like Paul George clearly wants the ball, right? So playoff time, we saw Paul George in OKC, right?
Right.
And we saw what he can do. So how do we think that's going to work with their chemistry? I just don't think it's going to pan out very well.
Well, I think that was part of what the reason was when they negotiated to get in the summer to come play together. I think Paul George is going to come together with Kawhi, and just their whole goal when they came together in the summer to agree to go to LA together was to win together. So I don't see that really per se getting in the way of who wants the ball when, where, or how, which way.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's all I pretty much have. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I think I brought up everything I needed to. I think Milwaukee is going to do what they're going to do. I mean, best record in the NBA. Let's keep it going.
Hyman?
No, my closing remarks, I believe that no one will be able to stop the playoff beast, LeBron James.
It's a whole different animal in the West, my friend. I have the Clippers with the amount of depth that they've seen, that we've seen with them since the summer, and they've owned the Lakers since the season was suspended. Leave a comment below with who you think's right in this conversation, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.